I got this opportunity when someone called me and said that, okay, you need to come here, talk about banking and finance, and the topic is M&A. I was not very sure that whether I would be well equipped at this stage to talk about M&A perspective on a banking and finance, but having spoken to them, what we realized and the kind of audience that we would be interacting with, my perspective is not here, and my intention, to be honest, is not here to talk about the Exxon Mobil deal or Tata Chorus or the ArcelorMittal of the world, and which you've heard about it, and I'm sure that there are much better people in this world equipped to tell you about that. Just Google it, YouTube it, you get a perspective. And they have much more data, much more information. But what I'm here, and in this nice little circle that I'm here just to give you a perspective about the M&A transaction that I have been involved with in Nepal, and few of these South Asian and Southeast Asian countries that I've been working in the last couple of years. I have a piece of paper, and I'll see if I avoid not using it as much as possible, but what I'm trying to accomplish here, and at the end of the day, if there is, when you walk out of this room, if there are a couple of takeaways that the students and the corporates who are sitting here can have and can take away from this session, I think I would say the mission is accomplished. So basically what I'm going to talk about is to have a little bit of appreciation about what an M&A transaction is all about. What is a merger? What is an acquisition? Then I'm going to run you through and then just give you my perspective of why an institution or any organization even think about a merger and acquisition. What is in their mind? And what actually drives them to get into an M&A transaction? And $1 million question comes is, at what price you're going to buy them? And what structure you're going to do? What kind of a debt structure are you going to do? What kind of an equity structure are you going to do? So that becomes $1 million question. Is there a right or a wrong answer? Maybe not. But it depends on what you do with your negotiation skill, and what kind of a structure you place it at the end of the day. I think that's what makes a difference. And I think the most fundamental issue is how, in a typical M&A transaction, you do it in Nepal, we've done it in Southeast Asia, we just recently closed a transaction in London as well. There's a certain procedure internationally followed, right? So I would like just to run you through the kind of a procedure that you do it into it, and the things that you should keep in mind. And I think the most fundamental issue which always remains in a mergers and acquisition deals are the post-mergers issues. There are a lot of issues that will come up. You can do a great deal, but if you cannot sustain a great deal, then the whole plan of sustainability and scalability that you probably thought in the beginning of doing a merger and acquisition will be completely lost. Then I'm going to give you my tips of an M&A transaction, which probably you might hear people talking about in a lot of forums, but these are from my experience. After last year we closed around 12 deals, we closed a total of $100 million of transaction in the whole 1 year. And I was on the buy side, I was on the sell side, sometime I was a target, sometime I was an acquirer. So it's fundamental, there are around 7-8 points, which for me is a guru mantra, to be honest. That from now onwards, whenever I'm getting into any kind of merger and acquisition, these are the things that I always keep in mind. Now, having said that, now just to begin with, to have an appreciation towards mergers and acquisition, and for this purpose, I'm just going to read you a definition when you Google what's a merger, what's an acquisition. And after that, I would like to request the audience here to just raise their hand and tell me if you've understood what it actually meant. Okay, so it says, merger and acquisition is an area of corporate finance, management, and strategy dealing with purchasing or joining with other companies. In a merger, two organizations join forces to become new business, usually with a new name. A merger occurs when two separate entities combine forces with a new joint organization, and acquisition refers to a takeover of another entity by another. Right? So just from my understanding, if you can just raise your hand, if you've understood by this definition what is a merger, what is an acquisition. Glad. So I've seen around 5, 6, I think there are probably a bundle of this thing, but I can see 5, 6 things being raised. So I think what I would like to know is, at the end of the presentation, when it's over, I would like to see everyone raising their hand, and if that happens, then mission is accomplished. So now I'm going to put this aside, and I'm going to use it when, if I need to just pull out some notes out of that. So in a typical situation where, let's imagine there's a company A, there's a company B, right? And for the intentions that they have, they want to either merge or acquire the company B. So whenever this company A is buying an asset of company B, number one, asset. Number two, you're buying a portion of company B. That's number two. And number three, you're buying the whole company as a whole. That's when you typically say it's a typical acquisition of an asset, acquisition of a part of a company, or acquisition of the company, right? So you can acquire 50% stake in a company, you can acquire a majority stake in a company, you can acquire a disproportionately large 90% stake in a company, it still is an acquisition. What happens after an acquisition? You tend to say that, okay, now it's my company, my rule prevails, my board members, my employees, I'm gonna change the rules, right? So that's when the typical scenario is called an acquisition. Whereas in the case of a merger, there is company A and company B. They say that, okay, company A feels that there is some perspective, some reasons why company B is become a good entity to merge with, okay? With that perspective, they merge and they become probably company C. Or they continue with company A, or they join an A and call it an A and B, right? And where they talk about their management, talk about their board, they continue to gel together, they form an alliance in their management team, form an alliance in the board of directors, and that's when it forms a merger. So, but having talked to you about this simple example of company A and company B, I still feel from my experience there's a thin line between a merger and acquisition. And that's precisely a reason why I feel in the world of investment banking, they use this very interchangeably. So when you say that, what do? I do M&A. Oh, so what kind of deals are you working on? Oh, it's a simple M&A transaction. They don't say it's a merger transaction, they don't say it's an acquisition transaction. There's a very thin line between mergers and acquisition, and I think that's used very interchangeably in today's world, right? So having talked about having a little bit of appreciation about what a merger and acquisition is, let us just dwell a little bit of time to understand and appreciate why a company would actually want to do a merger. Why in the world, you're doing great, but you just want to do it. And there could be several reasons to do it. And for the sake of easy reference, let me break it down into fundamentally two areas. And I would say 2.5 areas. Number one, it's all about incremental value. Okay? So what you're trying to do is, the reason you're getting into a merger and acquisition deal is that, what you're trying to do is, okay, I merge into it, 1 + 1 is not 2, is 3. You feel that you join hands, I can do better. I can do better, not individually, but as a group, I can do much better what would have been done individually. So that's precisely the reason. And there could be a lot of reasons why this could be a reality. Number one, and economies of scale could play in, right? So you have large, you can demand a high competitive price in the market, you can talk about a cost where you can reduce the cost substantially, so there's a lot of economies of scale that comes in. The other could be economies of scope, where expertise comes in. Let's say, for example, oh, that company has an expertise to do X, Y, Z, and my company has an expertise to do X, Y, Z. If I merge together, then I think the expertise joins, then I don't have to pay any other advisors around here and there to do anything, so I can probably come out with an organization which has the right expertise, and economies of scope plays in, and that could be one reason why you wanted to get into merger and acquisition. The second block of the table could be growth, right? You wanted to grow. It's not that you just want to limit yourself, you just wanted to grow. There could be instances where you would like to acquire, let's say you can do a forward integration or a backward integration. And let me illustrate that with a very simple example, although I believe that you know what I'm talking when I say backward and forward integration. Let's presume that you're a car manufacturer, right? And your major cost of your thing is, let's presume, for the argument's sake, is the engine, right? And if you're buying that engine from a third party, you decide to acquire the third party itself, right? And that could be one reason. The other reason could be that, okay, I am the largest FMCG manufacturing company in this world. Let's presume I'm Unilever out here, right? And I have access to the best product in the market. But I decided to do a little bit of a different kind of integration where I go and start buying chain of grocery stores, right? So that I can go out in the market. I don't have to depend on, let's say, the Walmart of the world or the Kmart of the world. I'll have my own chain of this thing, and that would be another reason why you want to do it. So it's not about just growing, that you want to grow with your sales and probably go into this, but it could be also your forward and your backward integration. In some instances, you wanted to diversify, right? And that could be a reason for the growth. Let's say, for example, you're a car manufacturer, now you wanted to get into cement manufacturing. Okay, you want to become a conglomerate, right? And that's how the biggest conglomerate has become. And they want to, instead of starting from the scratch, because the gestation period of establishing business is very long, right? So what they decided, they have enough money in the pocket, and they go out and buy. They go out and buy in a different sector. So what they're trying to do is, they're trying to diversify their portfolio, getting into new organizations, new sectors, and that could be a reason within the growth story. So we've talked about the forward and the backward. One could be diversified. And third could be something very, very different as well. Let's say, for example, there are a lot of other perspectives where you are limited to Nepal, right? Or you're limited to South Asia or Southeast Asia. You want to have some establishment in London. We've been an education player in Nepal for over half a decade. And one fine day, we decided that we want to go global. So what we decided, we went to London Stock Exchange at AIMS. We decided that this is a good company, and we bought a significant stake in that company. And then now, what we have is our company is an education company, not only based out of Nepal, but we have a presence in London, Cyprus, Dublin, Singapore, and Malaysia with one go. And that is giving us a lot of leverage. Right? So there could be several reasons why you actually get into, and precisely a reason why you want to get into merger and acquisition. And there are a lot of other reasons, like when I say 2.5, there could be several other reasons as well. Somewhere, you get some tax benefit. You do that kind of a merger, you get some kind of a tax benefit, right? And in some instances, there's some kind of a family issue, right? So you want to either merge with a family, you want to have some kind of a marriage with that particular family, so you merge the entity and start the relation. So there could be several other reasons why you actually get into a merger and acquisition. So to put it in a nutshell, you're trying to increase your profitability and starting to, let's say, do some kind of a significant growth at the same time, and there could be several reasons why you are getting into M&A. So after having a little bit of perspective and appreciation of what an M&A transaction is, why exactly the companies of the world get into M&A, I think the million-dollar question comes is, at what price do I buy them? I mean, do I buy it at this price? Do I use this method, that method, this? But fundamentally saying, after having worked in this sector for the last few years now, there's no right or a wrong answer for it. Right? In some instances, I'll illustrate an example, and I'll give you a perspective on where I'm coming from. 2.5 years back, in fact 2 years back, we acquired 51% stake in a management company, hotel management company in India, which has over 40 hotels in India alone. It manages around 40 hotels. So when we did the deal, we did not go ahead and say that, okay, fine, I'm going to pay this price for you. Okay, we structured the deal. And how did we structure the deal? Because the investment banker who was representing them, they came and said, look, this is the price. It's worth, let's say for this argument's sake, it's worth 100 crores. I don't believe it. And they said they believe it because in 3 years' time, this is the kind of a growth that the company would have, and this is the kind of a profitability it will have. So how I structured it, how we structured it was that, okay, it's fine. If you believe that after 3 years, you're going to get this, then I'm not going to pay you this money now. So out of 100 crores, if the valuation is 51 crores, I'm going to pay you 10 crores now. The remaining 41, I'm going to link it to your internal rate of return, the IRR, right? If you achieve that rate in this year's time, then I'm going to give a portion of it. And then I'm going to give a portion of it. So there are a lot of ways you can structure it, wherein you are actually not giving a price at a single point in time, but you are actually de-risking yourself and not taking the brunt of that price at this moment. There are several methods that you use, and when you're deriving a formula, let's say a price for any acquisition and investment, and I'm sure Ajay will talk about that more in detail later.